Blood-curdling screams pierce the night as President Ibrahim Traoré bolts upright in his bed. But no, it was just another nightmare, the same one that had haunted him since those reports started coming in. 4 children vanishing without a trace, innocent lives swallowed by darkness. In the stillness of his presidential quarters, Traoré's mind races back to the ambulance he'd witnessed 3 nights ago. How peculiar it had seemed arriving at St. Denis Orphanage well past midnight, departing with 4 silent bundles. At the time, he'd thought nothing of it. Now, he wasn't so sure. "President Traoré, your 9 o'clock briefing is ready," his assistant announces, pulling him back to reality. The presidential office in Ouagadougou feels suffocating this morning. Stacks of reports cover Traoré's mahogany desk, missing children, concerned citizens, whispered rumors, all revolving around the abandoned St. Agnes Cathedral, standing like a crumbling sentinel on the outskirts of the city. 17 children in 6 months, Mr. President. Police Commissioner Ouedraogo explains, pointing to a map dotted with red pins. Each mark represents a child gone. The local residents speak of strange lights at the cathedral late at night, unusual sounds, vehicles coming and going when all should be still. "And you've investigated?" Traoré asks, his voice steady despite the unease coiling in his stomach. The commissioner shifts uncomfortably. "We sent patrols, found nothing conclusive. Most likely vagrants seeking shelter or teenagers playing their games." Interior Minister Diallo interjects smoothly. "With all due respect, Mr. President, these are merely superstitions. The cathedral has been abandoned for decades. People always create stories about such places. We have more pressing national security matters requiring your attention." Something in Diallo's tone triggers Traoré's instincts honed through years in the military before becoming president. Too dismissive, too eager to change the subject. "Nevertheless," Traoré responds firmly, "when children disappear, it becomes my highest priority. I want a proper investigation. Immediately." The ministers exchange glances. Reluctant nods follow. "Leave me," Traoré commands. As the room empties, he stands at the window, gazing toward the distant silhouette of St. Agnes Cathedral, barely visible on the horizon. Something isn't right. He can feel it. A soft knock interrupts his thoughts. "Mr. President, there's a woman insisting on seeing you. Madame Konate from the Eastern District Orphanage. She's quite distressed." Ordinarily, protocol would prevent such an impromptu meeting, but the mention of an orphanage sends a chill down Traoré's spine. "Send her in." Madame Konate enters, her eyes red from weeping, hands trembling as she clutches a folder. "Forgive the intrusion, Mr. President. I didn't know where else to turn. Please, sit." He gestures kindly. "Tell me what troubles you." Her story spills out between sobs. A charitable medical program, offering free checkups and treatments for orphaned children. 4 children taken 3 nights ago for overnight observation. None returned. When she inquired, the charity's phone number was disconnected. The office address empty. They had all the proper paperwork. Mr. President, government seals. Health Ministry approvals. I would never have let them go otherwise. Traoré's blood runs cold. "Do you have copies of these documents?" She hands him the folder with trembling fingers. After she leaves, Traoré immediately summons Interior Minister Diallo and demands an emergency investigation. The minister's face remains impassive, but something flickers in his eyes. Fear. Guilt. "Of course, Mr. President, I'll personally oversee this matter." Later that evening, as the presidential palace settles into night routine, Traoré receives an alert from his private security system, a precaution he'd installed after an attempted coup last year. It shows Interior Minister Diallo in a palace corridor, speaking urgently into his phone. "We have a problem. The president is asking questions about St. Agnes. Yes, those questions. No, I tried to dissuade him. Yes, I understand what's at stake. Good heavens, Traoré's suspicions crystallize into something far darker. Something rotten festers within his own government. With renewed determination, he accesses the secure terminal in his private study. Bypassing official channels, he searches for connections, the charity, the health ministry authorizations, the cathedral. What he discovers makes his heart pound against his ribs. New-Gen Pharmaceuticals, a multinational corporation with tentative approval for experimental drug trials in Burkina Faso. Applications repeatedly denied by the Ethics Committee, then mysteriously approved 3 months ago with ministerial override. Financial records showing substantial deposits to offshore accounts linked to several high-ranking officials. And most damning of all, a schedule of subject acquisitions with dates matching perfectly with the disappeared children. "Dear God," Traoré whispers, his hands shaking with a mixture of rage and horror. The depth of this conspiracy staggers him. Children, the most vulnerable citizens, being trafficked for pharmaceutical testing, and his own ministers complicit. Whom can he trust? The police, the military. His own security detail, if the interior minister is involved. How far does this corruption reach? As dawn approaches, Traoré makes his decision. Opening a dusty wardrobe in his private quarters, he pulls out an old priest's cassock, a relic from his father who had once studied for the priesthood before choosing a military career instead. Sometimes, to uncover truth, a leader must walk into darkness himself. Traoré picks up his secure phone and dials the one person he still trusts implicitly, Captain Sawadogo. His former comrade from Special Forces, now serving as his personal bodyguard. "Meet me in my quarters. Tell no one. We have work to do." Outside, the first light touches the spires of St. Agnes Cathedral, illuminating its broken windows like accusing eyes staring back at the presidential palace. Flickering candles cast eerie shadows against the crumbling walls of St. Agnes Cathedral. Outside, a small gathering of homeless souls huddle around a meager fire, seeking warmth against the biting cold of the Ouagadougou night. Among them, an elderly priest appears, his frail figure stooped with age, face hidden beneath a tattered hood. He distributes small loaves of bread, murmuring blessings in a voice barely above a whisper. As the flames briefly illuminate his face, one might glimpse features that seem strangely familiar. The determined eyes of President Ibrahim Traoré, now disguised behind days of stubble and artfully applied dirt. "Bless you, Father," croaks an elderly woman, clutching the bread as if it were gold. "You're new to these parts. Be careful of that place." She nods toward the cathedral. Evil things happen there after midnight. The devil's work. Traoré nods solemnly. "Tell me more." "My child, 3 days earlier, in the secure depths of the presidential palace, Traoré and Captain Sawadogo had meticulously crafted their plan. A rusted crucifix hollowed out to conceal a sophisticated transmitter. A presidential body double sent to the border regions for a confidential inspection. False wounds created with theatrical makeup. Clothes deliberately soiled and worn. The moment you confirm criminal activity, activate the transmitter, Sawadogo had instructed, demonstrating the hidden switch in the crucifix. "My team will converge on the cathedral within 5 minutes. But, sir, this is extraordinarily dangerous. If someone recognizes you, sometimes duty requires more than signatures on papers." Traoré had replied, his resolve unwavering. "These are our children, Sawadogo, our future." Now, as Traoré shares bitter tea with the homeless community, he absorbs their stories like a sponge. They speak of black vans arriving in the dead of night. Children's voices, occasionally heard then suddenly silenced. Strange men in suits, guarded by thugs with guns poorly concealed beneath jackets. My cousin's boy was taken 2 months ago, whispers a gaunt man with milky eyes. Promised money for medical tests. Never returned. Police did nothing. Said he probably ran away. Traoré's heart pounds against his ribs, but his disguised face remains impassive. When do these vans usually arrive? Thursdays, always Thursdays. Tonight, in fact. As darkness deepens on this fourth night, Traoré slips away from the encampment. His muscles, trained through military service but softened by years behind a desk, protest as he scales a low wall encircling the cathedral grounds. Dropping silently into an overgrown garden, he approaches a shattered stained glass window. St. Michael the Archangel, now missing his head and one wing. The interior smells of dust and decay. And something else. Antiseptic chemicals. His nostrils flare at the incongruous scents. From the shadow of a broken confessional booth, Traoré watches, scarcely daring to breathe. The cathedral's nave has been transformed. Equipment covered with tarpaulins, modern locks on ancient doors, security cameras discreetly mounted on crumbling pillars. A sudden movement catches his eye. Across the cathedral, slipping through a side entrance, comes a small figure, a boy, perhaps 12 years old, moving with the cautious grace of a street child accustomed to danger. Gracious heavens, what is a child doing here? Before Traoré can intervene, headlights sweep across the stained glass windows. Vehicles approaching. The boy darts behind an overturned pew, mere meters from Traoré's position. In the tense silence that follows, Traoré can hear the boy's frightened breathing, risking exposure. He extends a hand from his hiding place, pressing a finger to his lips when the startled child notices him. The cathedral doors swing open. Men in suits enter, followed by white-coated figures wheeling equipment. Last come the guards, guns now openly displayed. The boy's eyes widen in recognition. He fumbles in his pocket, producing a crumpled photograph, holding it toward Traoré with trembling fingers. In the dim light, Traoré studies the image, a smiling boy, perhaps 9 years old, standing before a school building. "My brother," the boy mouths silently. "They took him." Before Traoré can respond, a new figure enters the cathedral, tall, authoritative, moving with practiced confidence. The hood of his expensive overcoat falls back to reveal Deputy Health Minister Kabore. Traoré nearly gasps aloud. Not just any government official, but one he personally appointed after the coup, believing him to be beyond reproach. Yet here he stands, directing what appears to be a criminal operation. "Prepare the subjects," Kabore commands, checking his Swiss watch impatiently. "The new gen representatives will arrive within the hour. They want demonstrable results this time." Traoré feels physically ill as the implications crystallize. His government, his trusted appointments, trafficking children for pharmaceutical testing. The corruption runs deeper than he ever imagined. The boy tugs at Traoré's sleeve, motioning toward a narrow staircase leading downward. Silently, they retreat from the confessional, creeping toward this potential escape route. At the top of the stairs, the boy whispers, barely audible. "The basement. More children there. I've been watching for weeks, trying to find my brother." "How did you get in?" Traoré asks. "Old burial tunnels, connected to the cathedral. I can show you." Outside, through a small, ground-level window, Traoré glimpses black vans arriving. More men, more equipment, and most horrifyingly, a group of sedated children being unloaded like cargo. His fingers close around the crucifix transmitter. One press would bring Sawadogo's team crashing in, but with so many armed men, the risk to the children would be enormous. "I need to see everything first," he decides. "Document it all." The boy nods, eyes wise beyond his years. "Follow me, father, but be careful. They kill those who see too much." As they descend the crumbling staircase, Traoré places a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. "What's your name?" "Child." "Issouf, sir," the boy replies. Then, with devastating simplicity, "Are you going to save them?" Traoré feels the weight of his office, his duty, his humanity pressing down like a physical burden. "Yes, Issouf, we are going to save them all." The harsh beam of a torch slashes through the darkness, catching President Ibrahim Traoré directly in its glare. His heart nearly stops as the light blinds him, exposing his disguise in the shadowy cathedral. "You there, who are you?" The voice cuts like a blade through the musty air. For a terrible moment, everything hangs in the balance: the lives of innocent children, the exposure of a horrific conspiracy, and indeed, Traoré's own survival. One wrong move could spell disaster for them all. I came to pray," Traoré stammers, hunching his shoulders and affecting a vacant stare. He sways slightly, mimicking the disoriented movements of the mentally ill whom society has abandoned to the streets. The tall figure, Deputy Health Minister Caboret, studies him with cold suspicion. "Get rid of him," he orders dismissively. "Quietly. We can't afford interruptions tonight." 2 guards advance, rough hands gripping Traoré's arms. They drag him toward a side exit, away from witnesses. Issouf, the brave street boy, remains hidden in the shadows, wide-eyed with terror. The moment they clear the cathedral doors, Traoré makes his move. Years of military training surge through his muscles as he drives an elbow into one guard's solar plexus. The man doubles over, gasping. The second guard reaches for his weapon, but Traoré is faster. A swift strike to the throat leaves the man choking, collapsing to his knees. "Run!" The first guard screams to his companions inside. "It's a trap!" Chaos erupts within the cathedral. Shouts, the crack of gunfire, the shattering of glass. Traoré presses the hidden switch in his crucifix, activating the transmitter. Within moments, sirens wail in the distance, growing louder by the second. He turns to re-enter the cathedral when a sharp voice stops him cold. "I wouldn't do that, Mr. President." Minister Caboret stands in the doorway, pistol aimed directly at Traoré's chest. His smile is as cold as a serpent's. "I've been expecting you." "Sir, did you really think we wouldn't notice your little disappearing act? Our security cameras spotted you 3 days ago. Your Special Forces team has been neutralized." Good Lord. The blood drains from Traoré's face. A trap within a trap. "You won't escape justice," Traoré declares, standing tall despite the weapon trained on him. Caboret laughs bitterly. "Justice, is that what you call it? This is business, Mr. President. New Gen pays us millions in pounds sterling for access to test subjects. That money builds schools, hospitals, roads. A few street urchins sacrifice themselves for the greater good of Burkina Faso. You're selling children." Traoré's voice shakes with righteous fury. "I'm building a nation's future." Caboret counters, "Something you lack the vision to understand. Africa has been exploited for centuries now. We exploit their guilt, their need for markets, their pharmaceutical patents. The weak serve the strong. It's nature's law." The pistol steadies. "Goodbye, Mr. President. Your tragic death while investigating criminal elements will rally the nation. Your successor will be more amenable to progress." As Cabor's finger tightens on the trigger, a small blur launches from the darkness. Issouf. The boy crashes into Cabor's legs with all his might. The shot goes wild, bullets splintering ancient wood. Traoré seizes the moment. Lunging forward to grapple for the weapon, they crash against the cathedral wall, locked in desperate struggle. Caboret fights with surprising strength, his manicured appearance belying a killer's instinct. Just as Cabor regains control of the pistol, Blinding lights flood the cathedral grounds. Vehicles screech to a halt. Armed figures emerge, weapons raised. Drop your weapon, Special Forces. Caboret freezes, momentarily distracted. It's all the advantage Traoré needs. A decisive strike sends the minister crumpling to the ground, the pistol clattering harmlessly away. Captain Sawadogo rushes forward. "Mr. President, thank heavens, you're alive." "The children," Traoré gasps. "Secure the children first." What follows is a night that will reshape Burkina Faso forever. 37 children rescued from makeshift laboratories in the cathedral basement. 17 officials arrested, including 3 government ministers. Computer files documenting a vast conspiracy between Neugen Pharmaceuticals and corrupt elements within multiple African governments. Dawn breaks as Traoré, now in his proper presidential attire, addresses the international press corps that has descended upon Ouagadougou like locusts. "Today, we have witnessed both the darkest depths of human greed and the brightest heights of human courage," he declares, placing a protective hand on Issouf's shoulder. This young man risked everything to save his brother and others like him. He reminds us that true leadership isn't about titles or offices. It's about the willingness to stand against injustice, whatever the cost. 1 week later, newspapers worldwide carry the extraordinary story: African president goes undercover to bust child trafficking ring. Neugen's stock plummets. International investigations launch across 3 continents. And in Burkina Faso, a profound reckoning begins. In the refurbished presidential office, Traoré keeps the rusted crucifix on his desk, a reminder of what leadership truly means. Beside it stands a photograph of Issouf, now enrolled in the nation's elite police academy training program. Sometimes, Traoré reflects, justice requires more than laws and courtrooms. It requires leaders willing to walk where cameras cannot follow, to see with their own eyes, to risk everything for truth. For when power serves compassion rather than itself, even the smallest light can banish the darkest shadows. His fingers trace the worn edges of the crucifix, a symbol of sacrifice that now means more to him than ever before. The true measure of leadership is not what you accomplish from behind a desk, but what you're willing to risk for those who have no voice. Thank you for following Ibrahim Traoré's inspiring journey. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to discover more incredible stories from StoryMoss.